All right, well, hello everyone. Thank you for signing in, logging in, and joining us in today's webinar. We are delighted to talk to you about academic leveling and discussing how to build foundational management and business knowledge for the learners. Especially, we'll be focusing on incoming graduate program students, or what sometimes is called as postgraduate program, right? And we'll be sharing some research and analytical results using Peregrine's data on partner institutions who have used academic leveling. And my name is Alima Jamiasuren, and I'm running this webinar out of my Tokyo office. And I'm the Director of Asia Pacific Operations of Peregrine Global. And I work with all of our partner institutions located in India. And this webinar is a focus for our Indian partner institutions, as well as East Asia, Central Asia, and the Asia Pacific region, including Australia and New Zealand. I've been working as a global higher education consultant for over a decade, and I have taught and currently teach a business course for a postgraduate program. Now, today with me is my colleague, my esteemed colleague, Mr. Kathatri Raman. And this webinar is being brought to you by Peregrine in collaboration with SEA Trust. And we work, of course, very closely together to provide management schools with resources and services to enhance the quality assurance in business education. So here, Kathatri, please say a few words.
Hi, it's very interesting to come on to the second series that we are now conducting. Basically to introduce the kind of assessment advantages that we have, in what Peregrine has been offering. And in the last 10 years or so, you're very familiar about what Peregrine's offerings are. And this particular collection is meant to help the business schools to come to understand the future forward in terms of the kind of changes that are taking place right now. Huge amount of changes are taking place. One has to really understand how the business are functioning, and that connecting to the businesses require you to be really very much abreast of what's going on. When the industry is changing its own pace, obviously we also have to change from the business schools point of view. So these tools which we are talking about right now are going to be of great use in that kind of a change that we have in mind. We have been constantly talking about using the online platforms for advancing the cause of quality. And Peregrine has been a pioneer in this field, and we are very fortunate that we have tied up with Peregrine, and we've been working with Peregrine for the last decade or so, because we always believe that there is a lot of online activity that has to be going on in addition to what you're doing in the classrooms. So this has been our tradition, introducing some of these tools which are there, which have been there, which are very, very great use to the business schools across the world. And this series will continue for the next 4 sessions as well, starting from today. And we hope that there'll be a lot of interaction and a lot of support to this kind of activity as we go. Thanks, Halima. Over to you.
Thank you, Kathatri. And so we will be kind of, talking off of each other. And again, it's my pleasure to collaborate with Kathatri and the SEA Trust to bring you our fall series of webinars. And we want to organize it as a participatory kind of webinar. So please do answer questions, poll questions, and do type in your questions in the question panel. And then we're planning to leave perhaps some time at the end to fully answer your questions that you might have. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hands, type them into the question panel, or also wait until the end to ask them during the Q&A session. So, I'm not sure about your specific program, but you're very familiar that most graduate programs do not require incoming students to hold a business undergraduate degree, right? So it's a very important strategy for you because you want to make sure that the incoming students create a diverse cohort of students, right? And then when you're putting a program together, of course, you do want to really provide an engaging and enriching experience, right? So your incoming MBA students might be coming from, management graduate program students, postgraduate students might be coming from with a STEM undergraduate degree, or they could be coming with the humanities, or, and of course, you will accept those who have management or business undergraduate degrees. And then this always provides a nice balance to the faculty and the students who appreciate that kind of diversity and variety in opinion and experience, right? And then in this kind of environment, of course, students are bringing the multitude of perspectives. Now, this process, of course, poses a challenge, especially into your postgraduate master's level programs, because your undergraduate business degree students will have a higher level of the knowledge of core management and business topics, right? But at the same time, your undergraduate, say, chemistry or history major students, they wouldn't have had the same background and knowledge, right? So it's not to put the non-business students at a disadvantage. There might be a number of ways to provide background knowledge in management subjects, right, prior to entering the program. So this often means then more classroom time or just more time and resources. Or sometimes you want those students to demonstrate some core business knowledge through waiver exams and so forth, right? So this lack of knowledge for foundational concepts in management is what we consider a gap in business education. So this mainly focuses for incoming undergraduate students into your postgraduate programs who do not have prior management undergraduate background, right? As the faculty alluded, it has been, quite a transitional time, and especially during these, last year and a half, right, few semesters with global pandemic and such, many of our programs switched to online digital instruction, right? And then some students may or may not have been as successful in that kind of environment, or we just know lots is on the students' shoulders these days. So this question, right, of gap in business education is quite relevant to your undergraduate students as well. And the question is, have your students, undergraduate students in this example, fallen behind during these transitional months? So now, do you need then to level your undergraduate students, right, and bridge their knowledge gap and or refresh their business and common core management knowledge of your undergraduate students? So I know we started a little late, so I do have a poll question. I'll ask it, think it to yourself, and I'll kind of move to the next slide. But what I wanted to ask you first in this question was, how does your program bridge the gap in student knowledge prior to them entering a postgraduate program, be it a management, master's program? So some of you may offer foundation courses for students who need them, or maybe you ask your students to provide proof that they have taken the prerequisite courses, or you have a mixture of, combination of these two offerings. Or at the same time, you may not have any formal processes to address the gap in business knowledge. So as you know, Peregrine, we work very closely with accreditation agencies and associations, right? And it is very important to keep in mind that international, regional, institutional, and programmatic accreditors include in their standards the requirement that you admit students that have the capacity to succeed in your programs. So if you are admitting undergraduates without business major into your postgraduate program, you cannot just let them sink or swim, right? But instead, you are expected to provide them with the foundational knowledge that puts them on par with one another. Now, this even applies to schools that have open admissions policies. Now, therefore, in the eyes of accreditors, putting into place some type of process to build missing or gaps in foundation knowledge is not simply a nice to have, but it is a must have. And as you know all too well, Peregrine works with all the major business international and national accreditors, as well as what used to be called US regional accrediting organizations, right? Now they're US national, they also international in the sense that they go outside of the US to accredit programs. Now with that in mind, so I'd like to explore a solution on how to bridge gaps in the knowledge of students entering your postgraduate programs. The term academic leveling is just that, right? To bring students up to an adequate level of knowledge so that they can comfortably take the courses in their graduate degree programs. The goal is to equip them with the sum of knowledge that their classmates who have had the benefit of an undergraduate degree in prior management degrees. So now please keep in mind that all learners are different, right? And you may have adult learners who, after being away from school, may need to refresh their knowledge, right? Or when admitting students into an academic program, it is important to take a careful look at the previous academic and professional backgrounds. So the value of bridging the gap extends beyond the success of the individual student and the program. With bridging the gap in student learning, you improve your student retention and also the graduation rate of your program as well. So now let's take a look at some of the learning modules we have designed specifically to help support building fundamentals, or what's often called as common core management knowledge areas, right? So if you're working with ACBSP, for example, these are called common professional components. And so I'd like to kind of explain again that I use this core business knowledge or fundamental business knowledge, common core knowledge, or common professional component interchangeably throughout our discussion today. Since there, so there will be multiple ways when I reference. I can also maybe use CPC, so you'll know what I'm referring to. So at Peregrine, we have developed 16 online modules in the key areas of management knowledge. A key feature of these modules is to assess at the beginning and end of the module to ensure that the learner has retained what they have learned. Otherwise, the purpose of leveling is for moot point, right? As educators, our mission is to ensure that our students retain what is being taught. And therefore, the focus over the last 20 years has been on student-centered teaching. So as I mentioned, I have worked with many schools that have used these modules in a number of different ways. So for example, these leveling modules can be used as a requirement for applicants wishing to enter a postgraduate management program, right? Either as a package or individually. So one school, and there are multiple schools, and then one of them have assigned all admitted students a set of modules, right, that must be completed prior to attending their first class in the management master's level program. So for example, in order to help the students to become successful, they want to make sure that all of their incoming, say, master's postgraduate students have leveled off in economics, micro and macro statistics, research methods, and also finance and accounting to make sure that they are set for success. But then if someone has already had, say, work experience, right, they don't have to take this module. And then in that case, they have an opportunity to kind of test out of that requirement. So we have, you probably know, business education assessment exams. And then if a student, for example, tests at, you set the threshold, 80%, 90% on a particular topic, for example, accounting, then they can waive that requirement. Or if a student scores 90% on the pre-test, the module pre-test, they can also be exempt from that requirement. And there's also many ways schools are using it. One of the schools I know puts together, actually Lebanon Valley, I think a boot camp for incoming undergraduate students. So they have X number of required modules students need to complete before they enroll in their master's level program. But then throughout the semester, they can complete the rest, right? If say 6 was a required number of modules to complete before the semester starts, throughout the next 2 years, master students can complete the rest of the modules, and then for each module, they get a credit back. They have some, reimbursement in their tuition. So there's a lot of nice ways to kind of encourage students to complete the full usage of the modules, because a student who has gone through these foundational knowledge areas and have refreshed or leveled up, and you'll see in data, end up being more successful, right? End up performing better and succeeding better. So there are many options for using these modules, and they help you to provide flexibility and affordability. And with the use of these flexible modules, you can fill any potential knowledge gaps in your learners. So here's the list of the modules that we offer. And these are the modules that cover the common body of knowledge that are traditionally covered in an undergraduate management degree program, right? So although we are focusing on students, I'm sure you can see from this list that even undergraduates might need some additional coursework or assistance, might benefit from having access to a module that covers the fundamentals of a particular business discipline, right? And I'm actually working with another international school in our region in Asia that feels like last semester, the students really have not had as good of an experience and exposure to accounting fundamentals, right? And especially this program, this master's program is known to be, graduating very strong students with accounting knowledge and principles. So they have the undergraduates that fit into their master's program, right? And then this particular program, even though they have undergraduates who completed the 4-year program, but especially those who are going on to their master's program, they wanted all their students to complete and go through the accounting fundamentals to ensure that they will be successful and they're ready to enroll in that postgraduate management program. So all modules start with a pre-test, which can be extremely helpful for the student to understand his or her own strengths and weaknesses, right? And as I mentioned, some institutions use the pre-test as a means by which the student can test out of the module requirement and move on onto the next topical area, right? So here's a screenshot of what a sample pre-test question looks like. The pre-test, as you can see, has 20 questions. And you can follow easily your students' progress on your client admin site. And if you have used our assessment or any of our other services, you know that you will get full access to all your students' results and data through Peregrine Client Admin site. Now, the post-test takes place once the student has completed all the sections in the module. Now, keep in mind that although I'm talking about the pre and post test here, throughout the module, it's divided into expertly written sections that bring students step by step through the learning process. So there are review quizzes, which are used to measure progress. And students can actually go back to the sections, move between sections as many times as they need if they did not understand a particular topical area, right? The goal here is on learning and retaining and understanding the material. So this is a good time to mention that students then have a full access to each of the modules for 2 years from the time they sign up. So this is truly a resource, right? If, as I mentioned, some of the schools that require incoming undergraduate students to complete 6 modules, for example, before the beginning of the course. So say, they completed accounting fundamentals, but they don't get enrolled in a higher level accounting until second or third semester. So with the subscription to the modules for 2 years, they can go back and refresh and review and use this as a resource once they enrolled in the master's level accounting course. So this is appreciated by the students quite a bit, and all the modules are available online on all mobile devices. So all the youngsters and digital natives should feel quite at home using this particular resource. So upon successful completion of a module, the students receive a completion certificate, and then the certificate provides all the results in a summary form. It breaks down all the sections and how well the students have done in each section. So students really appreciate this certificate because it can be a positive motivation. It also shows success and shows the areas that should be reviewed and the areas that they have succeeded quite well, right? And then with the schools that I work closely, they find that students like to add this completion certificate to their portfolio, right? Which is quite common practice in Asia or just internationally. And they can even use it as part of another proof of having, attained certain competencies in their knowledge areas, and even use it as part of their job application process. As I mentioned earlier, you as a program have a full access to all your students' progress and results via our client admin site. And this is a very easy to use, user-friendly site. And we have a full team of client engagement managers who can provide you with training and for free, of course, and help you cover and understand all the different functionalities, how to run reports. And also it can even, we have a team that can even help you how to interpret the data and so forth. But we have a wealth of experience, of course, with the working schools and also helping you to understand the data. So here, speaking of data, this is an example of the individual student results report. And this enables you to see the progress students are making and their scores in each section. The data you collect on each student as well as their progress enables you to manage in a very efficient way the process of helping to bring students to the level they need to succeed, right? So you can also look at the entire student cohort group and evaluate groups' results longitudinally over a number of years. So you can get some trend information. Now, in this report, you can see the pre and post-test cohort results. This is all also available for each learner and for the cohort as a whole. So this kind of provides you with that extra, programmatic, 30,000 feet look into your students' performance levels. The blue here shows results from the pre-test, and the yellow, the results from the post-test. And there's an average line there. So for school officials, right, these modules help you to improve your ability to provide the foundation knowledge students need to succeed for the transition from undergraduate to postgraduate level studies. As I mentioned, you can use it for, refreshing your current undergraduate students' knowledge. It also helps develop some learning accountability. And this is particularly important in our growing dependence on online learning, right? So we all have moved, switched into online learning, and just talking to different partner institutions, I'm learning that many of you are still struggling, right, with this full online transitional kind of stage of adopting online instruction. But what's been more of a challenge is for the schools to keep that accountability alive, right? To actually assess student learning. Have the students been able to retain the knowledge or even acquire the knowledge, retain and process it? So this will really help you to get a good picture of where you are. And then these modules also enable faculty to teach more effectively, right? For faculty, be able to teach to a class that has prerequisite background is critical in order to keep progressing and moving and building on that knowledge. And then, as I mentioned earlier, with when students are successful, we have improvement in learner retention, and also we have improvement with student graduation rates, which are quite important to the health and the viability of your programs. So now let's take a quick look at some of the empirical research results we have seen for schools using these modules. And I do have another poll, and not to take up too much of our time. I just introduce the poll question and then move to the next slide. So what I wanted to find out is what impact might leveling courses have on overall student success, right? So I wanted to get your insight into what you think about it. Very significant, somewhat, minimal impact, or no impact. So we have been offering the academic leveling modules to our partner institutions for the last good 10 years. And so we have a really good data in terms of schools that have used academic leveling and schools that have not, right? And then, so what we did is we have this data that we've been collecting. Of course, we have all the data. But what we wanted to learn is if there was a correlation between student success and academic leveling through our modules. So we were able to look at data from 17 client schools over a 6-year period. The schools that we have studied have been utilizing our summative knowledge-based outbound exam, which is our program level post test. So they have been using this, what we call the outbound business assessment, for 2 years before the institution integrated academic leveling into their programs. So those in the pre-leveling sample were learners who completed an outbound exam, but did not complete the leveling modules at the start of their program. Now the post-leveling sample was defined as those learners who completed an outbound exam at the end of their degree program. However, they actually went through the leveling modules at the start of their program. Now, the population included traditional, online, and blended master's degree programs. The schools within the sample needed to have a minimum of 30 completed exams in an academic year to be included in this analysis. So based on the selection criteria, including exclusions made to ensure validity of the results, an annual sample size for each academic year ranged from 604 to 2,293. So as you can see here, the academic leveling modules do increase foundational knowledge. The gray bars represent the pre-test score within the module before the learner reviewed the content, and the post-test score shows the scores after, right? So we are comparing here pre and post-test scores from modules using academic leveling with the graduate business programs. So you can see there's a nice, clear distinction. Now, if we compare pre and post-test scores from modules we used academic leveling with business programs, you can see a significant knowledge gain is expressed by the percentage change of paired pre and post-test scores. So knowledge gain ranged from, as you can see, anywhere from 87 to 183%. And we can clearly see that the academic leveling modules have a strong short-term impact on learners' knowledge. The smallest area of growth in knowledge happened to be, as you can see, this marketing. And the highest was operations production management. So looking at this change in knowledge, right, based on what we know about the learner population, we assume that marketing was likely the area that new graduate students had the most familiarity with, right? So therefore, the areas with very high growth are areas where there was the largest gap in knowledge and a limited conception of the subject. Now, we also wanted to see if there was a long-term impact, right? So in our analysis, then we decided to use assessment data from our client schools outbound programmatic, the summative assessment, right? As a way to measure impact of academic leveling on student retained learning throughout the program. So in order to do this, we needed a comparison group, right? And we have named them here, pre-leveling and post-leveling. So as a reminder, post-leveling sample was defined as those learners who completed an outbound exam, the assessment exam, at the end of their degree program, and also completed the leveling modules at the start of their program. Now, pre-leveling is the sample for those students who only completed the outbound exam, but not the leveling modules. So as you can see in the graph, those that did complete academic leveling modules at the beginning of their program scored much higher on the outbound assessment. So you can see the post-leveling is dark green, and then pre-leveling is the light gray, right? And on every common core management topic, you can see that the post-leveling cohort outperforming the pre-leveling. So that's a very nice data and results that we see. Now here's another look at the results. So here you see the percentage change between the outbound exam scores of master's degree learners who completed the module-based leveling program at the start of their master's program, and those learners who did not complete the module-based leveling program. And you can see that the percentage change is not only positive, but pretty significant. So again, marketing is the smallest, and in this case, we see quantitative research techniques and statistics had the largest improvement in results. So it's also interesting to separate the data based on delivery modality, right? And we found that, so delivery modality is it traditional? Is it the program itself? Is it an in-person, face-to-face traditional program? And the program itself is hybrid. So you have some online components, sometimes when students come into on campus and take some courses in person, or fully online program. And so that's what we wanted to take a look at it. And what we found was that online programs resulted in higher retained knowledge compared to traditional and blended. Even further, we found that blended programs tend to have higher retained knowledge compared to traditional programs, right? So to wrap up our findings, without exception, learners who completed an academic leveling program at the start of their program learned and retain knowledge more so than learners who did not complete a similar academic leveling program at the start of their, for example, master's degree program. So then why are the modules so effective? We know that for online programs to be engaging, they must contain dynamic and relevant instructional content, right? Simply reading materials, in PowerPoint slides is just not sufficient for today's learners. So an effective online environment gives students access to a variety of engaging resources that foster collaboration, deliver content, and support learning. Also, providing multimedia content ensures that there are a variety of ways that a learner can absorb the information, which it deals with the universal design. Also, we need to give students the opportunity to participate in higher level thinking and take action. So we call this helping students across the knowing learning gap. Once a student gains new information, they should apply it, whether it's in a short online quiz, written discussion, posting to the online discussion forums, through some kind of activity, or sitting together with the student cohort group and solving a problem together. Now, finally, balance of text, video, audio, and images should definitely be present. And not only do you need to include multimedia as a part of engaging students, but make sure that there is that good balance exists. Now, additionally, learning content should be scaffolded effectively. You can start with, of course, introduction. You have some self-evaluation surveys, questionnaires. You need to have some space to practice what's being learned, right? And at the end of it, students need to have a space and environment to apply the knowledge that they have learned into perhaps real world problems and challenges. So when you're designing, you build your course and the corresponding content and all activities, and they're positioned in a way that students are able to gain foundational knowledge, right? Properly reinforce concept, and with assistance, master them before moving on to the next concept that builds onto that previous knowledge. So I like to think about how we teach through math, right? If we didn't scaffold education, then we may expect a first grader to solve complex algebraic equations before they have even learned and mastered the foundational skills. So even with assistance, a learner would not be able to do this, and that learner may become quite frustrated. So therefore, when we scaffold our courses appropriately, we act as guides through various levels of knowledge, and as a byproduct, develop learners' confidence in their ability to move through the learning process. Just like a construction worker, success is dependent on the appropriate scaffolding being present. So this is all to say that our leveling modules, academic leveling modules, follow best practices within content and curriculum development to provide a dynamic and interactive learning experience. So our modules provide a combination of video, audio, and text, scaffolds information effectively, guides learners through building knowledge, and provides quizzes and activities that reinforce concepts to help learners to retain knowledge. So as we discussed, right, the modules, they come in the form of simulations. We have micro case studies. There's dynamic course content that consists of not only text, video, and sound clips, but it also has built-in activities and quizzes. And the nice thing is the flexibility, right? Modularity of these options. You can pick and choose the solutions that work best to meet your particular student's needs. And all of these modules can be easily integrated into your learning management system. So as I mentioned, this is an example of our module. And it's really easy to navigate through. And then this multimedia content reinforces concepts as they are introduced. So this is a sample of the navigation system and the features, and students can move up and down, they can return, they can review, and have access to this, to all the individual modules for up to 2 years. So here, I would like to open this poll because I do want to find out where and how we can help you next, right? So please let me know. Do you see the poll questions? How can we help you, right, to move forward? Would you like to receive? We have a white paper that we just published on academic leveling. So this is a great resource that shares best practices of some of our partner institutions, how they implemented and what kind of benefits they have received from the use of these academic leveling courses. And then if you needed a one-on-one consultation, and this is again free of charge, if you wanted to understand better where and how you could benefit from our leveling course modules, I'd be more than happy to schedule a call or meeting with you and or your team members and provide you free access to these leveling course modules. So I'd like to close the poll now. Thank you for responding to this poll question. And then please do let me know if you wanted to receive access to this resource, academic leveling courses. There are 16 of them, and they are individual. And you can, really put them together. You can use them one at a time. And here, I would like to give opportunity to Pathatri to share his thoughts. And if you have any questions, feel free to type them. Oh, chat. There have been questions coming through the chat. So
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the, we offer foundation bridge courses to all the students through asynchronous mode, which helps in orienting students from multiple disciplines level up. So that's wonderful. And thank you. Thank you, Pathatri. I've been answering the questions. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, were you able to answer the poll question? Okay, sorry, go ahead, Pathatri.
So one suggestion I want to make is that once this the program gets over, I would like this poll to be also available in our website so that people can take the poll until the next this thing, what do you call the second program that we will be having. So that 4-day period or so, these polls should be there so that people can participate in these polls. So we'll try to set it up so that it will be useful for people to use this. One comment that I wanted to really make based on my own experience of working with the business schools here. There is just like the way Professor Siri Prabha was just now mentioning that there are these programs which are being conducted by the business schools to help people to understand if there is a gap. That is what they call it as bridge courses. There are a lot of bridge courses that are available. There are a lot of institutions in India and elsewhere in the world. They do offer bridge courses. But see, bridge courses are very specific to a particular area or the kind of information that they might like to provide based on the market that they are operating in at this point of time. The message really is that the academic leveling course that we are talking about here is pretty focused, and it's also very closely linked to what the accreditation agencies are also looking for, by way of you showcasing that you have really done, you ticked all the dots in that sense of the term. So at the end of the day, any kind of academic program that we are talking about, especially if you are in an accreditation environment, it should be demonstrable. You have to demonstrate that you have really done this. So this is also another opportunity, really speaking, that if you take up this kind of an academic leveling program that is being offered, which is global, comprehensive, based on research, and has been working for the last 10 years or so, then the data analysis also becomes very easy and then very presentable. So this is also an option that we actually look at from that point of view. Yes, there are bridge courses that are being taught, which you have to really accept that's the way things are. And it's in fact even better. In fact, schools which are actually having these bridge courses should actually graduate to this ALC programs, which would really help them to kind of revisit and understand where exactly that we are at this point of time. And then the long run interest also, long-term interest, there has to be a certain consistency in doing this kind of research and the outcome of the research. So from the outcome point of view also, this is a fabulous way of looking at it. This research that you had just now shown just now about the 17 schools specifically that you've taken for a research purpose, by itself, I think this should be available as a paper, right?
It is available on our website.
Yeah. So that paper also need to be circulated. So what I am going to do is that I'm going to send this paper as well as the polls as a link to the participants and those whom we had contacted for this program as well. So everybody really gets the benefit of that. So when we are announcing the next workshop, next webinar, then this will go as a document towards that next webinar. So this is my point.
So thank you, Tafati, with that. And I do want to mention that this offers a very flexible solution. And the modularity of it means that you can pick and choose the topics based on your particular, not only learners' needs, but also on your particular program's needs, right? So if you as a program, you want to kind of beef up, say, operations management, or make sure that you set your students up for success, you can select that particular topic only. But if a student already has background, but a particular student is struggling with, I'll go back to accounting, then you can have individual students to kind of do that. And this saves, I haven't mentioned that each individual level course takes anywhere from 3 to 5 hours, which saves a lot of time. And time is valuable for everyone. But also it's at cost less than a textbook. And if you want to learn more about the cost and packaging, we can definitely talk about it. But thank you, Tafati. We will share the white paper on academic leveling, and we'll make this video recording available to you through Peregrine YouTube channel, but also on your website, as you have mentioned. So our next webinar is going to be on September 28th, 3 p.m. Osaka time, Tokyo time, that's where I am.
That's 11:30 in India.
Translation into your local time. And the next time we're going to talk about the foundations of assurance of learning. What is how do you put a good learning outcomes? How do you put together a good assessment? How do you put together a good continuous improvement process? And what are the best practices? So I hope you will be able to join us in our next webinar. And let me check if you have any other questions out there. But thank you very much for your active participation. And we hope to see you in a week. Thank you, Tafati.
Right. Thank you. Welcome.
And have a great day. Bye.
Have a great day yourself, all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.